Gloria, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. First of all, how are you and Emilio and all the family doing during the COVID pandemic?
Well, I think like everyone, it was a shock at first. Everyone doing their part. I tried to particularly make it very useful. So I climbed into my attic and brought down everything that's in there for the past 30 some years that was stored. I threw things away. I think subconsciously trying to shed myself of unnecessary things. And then I realized I needed to connect with my fans even more. So I started doing some Instagram lives with them. I did a public service announcement that was requested by my one of my best friends who's an infectious disease doctor and knew that I did parodies of my songs. So she asked me to please do something about putting on masks. So I did a get on your feet, but put on your mask.
Put on your mask when you go out in public.
I wrote a song called We Need a Time that was inspired by a conversation with my son, all the while waiting for the right moment to release this new album, Brazil 305, that had been set for a release in 2017. But when I was about to enter the studio to put my vocals on the record we recorded in Brazil, my mom passed away and I couldn't bring myself to sing. So it ended up being over a year before I could bring the joy that I wanted to put on this album. So, and then the George Floyd situation, so we postponed even further. Living day by day like everyone has been. Emilio has two quarantines, the house and the studio, because he's like a rocket. He cannot be in one place. So he was back and forth. Fortunately, my assistant was quarantined with me because she works out of my house. So we were able to continue to film and edit things like the video for Put On Your Mask. Trying to stay busy, missing my kids like crazy, talking to them every day on FaceTime, like everyone.
Gloria, how emotional has it been to actually release the album Brazil 305? Because as you said, you've been working on it for a number of years. It wasn't quite the right time to release it before. And it's your first one in 7 years. So how does it feel?
It feels like a big relief, first of all, because I had been teasing my fans with this forever and they understood, but still, I think the music found its best moment. I don't think it would have had the impact in 2017 that it's having today because of the overwhelming need for some joy and celebration, at least through music, which is my role in the world. I mean, I'm lucky that music was a catharsis to me my entire life. It saved me through some of my toughest moments. Other people's music, Elton John, Carole King, Stevie Wonder, the Beatles, these were got me through my toughest moments as a child. So for my music to be able to do that for other people is a great privilege and a blessing. And I'm happy that it's finally out there to at least, entertain people a little bit, maybe make them forget or dance around their kitchen or wherever they may happen to be.
As you say, Gloria, it's helping to lift people's moods. What is the atmosphere like now in Florida? Because there's been a recent spike.
Yes, I mean, Florida, it's a tough situation we're going through here. Everybody wondering and worrying about whether their kids should go back to school. I know that my grandson will not be going back to school. My son made the right decision of keeping him at home. I think that's the prudent thing to do. There's so much we don't know about COVID. And I know a lot because of my friend, Dr. Eileen Marty, who is on the cutting edge of this and keeps all of my dirty dozen. There's 12 of my friends from high school that we're on Zooms every week. And she keeps us very well informed. So yes, there's a lot of fear because of that, because we really don't know. Everyone is trying to do their part. Some people are putting on the mask. Other people don't want to put on the mask. And, my restaurants, Emilia's and my restaurants are still closed. We don't know what is going to happen with that. Our hotel reopened to a very small amount of people. The ones that are up north are okay because they're not in highly infectious areas. So it's been rough down here.
What do you think the impact will have on your businesses? You mentioned your restaurants that are closed.
It's going to change things. We have to make some hard decisions, Emilio and I, because you don't know how long you can sustain. This is going to be a long time before people feel comfortable going back inside restaurants, and they're eating outside and whatnot, but the beach gets shut down all the time. So we are really thinking a lot about how we might create some changes, move in a new direction. We will see. we're trying to, we still don't know, which is tough.
And is there government support for workers like the employees that work for you in the restaurants?
There was. And the first 2 months we made full use of this. We kept everybody on. And even in a month before that there was any help from the government, Emilio and I kept everyone on. We really wanted to do as long as possible. We got jobs for 300 of our employees in a pharmacy that they needed new workers. So since our workers were all vetted and had background checks, they were kind enough to give them jobs, and they still have them. And we have seriously downsized now because we don't know how long this is going to go on. You have to do what you have to do. But Emilia and I are very optimistic people. We still wanted to stay helpful. For 2 months during this pandemic, we made 500 meals a day and had our employees distribute them all over the city to doctors, nurses, first responders, police, fire workers. So we've tried to do our part, and we'll continue to do so always.
What is your view on the leadership there in the US, President Trump's administration? How do you think he's handled the pandemic so far?
Well, I think we've suffered from a serious lack of leadership. I think that at the beginning, the prudent thing would have been to listen to the task force that was really expressing that the best way we could protect everyone was to have a mask mandate. It would have been very helpful to see it come from the top job in the nation, because then, and to see inspiration for people to do it for their fellow man. It's become a political issue because it's a political year. It always happens. I've seen it through decades because I've been around long enough to see so many different political campaigns. And unfortunately, whenever there is a campaign, things really get complicated. And this has become very politicized when it really should not be. If we really care about our children and everyone else, the easiest thing would be for all of us to wear a mask, and that would have seriously curbed, the spread of this infection. So, I think at the beginning there was a lot of information or misinformation or lack of information, but that's when you need a leader to take control and step up and take risks. And it would have been great to see that happen. We're not in that situation anymore, and it could still help to do it, but things have gotten so incredibly complex that I don't know if there's a way back from that.
If you were sitting in a room with him, what would you say to him, Gloria? What would your message be?
We need inspiration. We need to bring this country together. We need to stop divisiveness and this extreme party polarity that's been created. We need someone to step up and say, look, we want to go into the future. We want to make it better. Let's all do this. We need some inspiration. We need hope, and it would be great to see it from the top job. Whenever there is a political campaign or a situation where, this is going to happen, you're going to see that. You're going to see this divisiveness happen. And, when I was a kid, I came from Cuba. Politics in a Cuban home was an incendiary issue. People tried to stay away from it in their families because in Cuba, when Fidel Castro came into power, there was only two ways: pro-Fidel or against Fidel. And it separated a lot of families. So normally people stayed away from that topic because people would lose it and get crazy. And I would take a lot of hope growing up in this country when I would see the debates and think, oh my gosh, what a wonderful thing that different, issues and ideas can be discussed in a level-headed and, balanced way. Well, those days are gone, unfortunately. And that, it's a sad thing for me to see, but we really need all our politicians on both sides of the aisle to step up and try to create some, hope and balance and listen to each other. There's going to be a million different ways of thinking, and we've always shared that without these kinds of issues.
Do you think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a chance?
Of course, I think they have a chance, but who knows what can happen? I mean, I think our biggest issue right now is going to be voter suppression, and not on purpose even, but just because of COVID. A lot of people will be fearful to stand in the line to vote. They may not be able to get their absentee ballots. I voted absentee forever because I'm usually out of the country when elections happen. And I made it a point to bring my kids with me to vote from the time that they could, be cognizant of what was going on because of the importance of that. We need our young people to get out and vote. We need everyone that possibly can, because in the last election, for 46% of our electorate did not vote because they didn't like either candidate. And, we have to make a choice. I vote because I can. I'm an immigrant. I'm a woman. For women, it took a long time before we could vote. It was just around the corner that women had that right. So as a woman, and particularly as an immigrant, it is incredibly important for me to vote. And I will find, come hell or high water, I will cast a vote. And I hope that everyone that's listening, especially our young people turning 18, that they will register and vote, whatever their decision may be. But we need to vote. I am very, very happy that there's a woman in a possible position in line for the highest office in the nation, a woman of color, the daughter of two immigrants from Jamaica and from India. And that fills me with a lot of hope just as a woman, because I think we need, some estrogen in positions of power.
In the music industry, with concerts obviously having to be halted, where do you see it going post-COVID?
Well, post-COVID, we'll get back to our concerts, because once we can be body to body with each other, that is the best way to experience music, in a group of people, because your spirits, they join, and there's a collective personality and a collective energy that is unprecedented when you're on a stage and everybody is there and there's an exchange of all that love. When that can happen, that's what is up in the air. We don't know. I think that it'll be well over a year before anybody feels comfortable stepping into that kind of crowd. In the meantime, there's new technologies and new ways of sharing. People are sharing through, the internet and streaming, and maybe we'll just step it up. Like you see it already, and people from their homes are creating little sets rather than just sitting like we did before. They're putting on lights. They're making their home sets more professional. Maybe we'll be able to do concerts in that way. I know, but I think it's important because a lot of musicians are making their living by doing concerts. Recording is not as lucrative as when you sold a physical copy of a record.
What would you like all your fans around the world to take away from Brazil 305, your new album?
I would love them to know, first of all, how grateful I am for their love and support. That's through so many decades. They've been there for me and are still there listening, as is evidenced by that we debuted #1 on the iTunes charts here and all over the world in different places, and top 10 in Europe and #1 in the Netherlands. I don't even know, because I haven't really been able to see, all the stats. But I want them to know that every time I step into a studio and put my voice on something, I think about them and I think about how they're going to feel, and I try to make them empowered and happy and joyful, because that's what music did for me, and it got me through my toughest moments. So I am very thankful and feel blessed and privileged to live a life making music, and I thank every one of them for making that possible for me.
And Gloria, when do you think, or when do you hope that you will be able to see your fans in person again?
I'm hoping that in between a year, not more than 2, that we can be together again, and that On Your Feet, our musical that was going all over Europe and had to be stopped, gets back on its feet, and that the theater community is supported enough to get them through this, so that we don't lose theater in the mix, because it is so difficult. And these performers are like amazing triple threats that act, dance, and sing for us 8 shows a week. And I don't want to see the loss of an entire industry, which we're seeing happen already here on Broadway. Already some theaters that were staples have closed their doors forever. So I'm hoping that we can all collectively try to save that venue, and that sooner than later we're together again and everything gets back, not to normal, but in a better way, that we learn something from all of this.
We saw photographs of yourself in a hazmat suit, I think hugging one of your grandchildren. How did that feel?
That hug I will remember the rest of my life, because we hadn't seen each other. Let's see, we locked down in March. That was his birthday, June 21st, where I was able to convince my son, and his wife convinced him, to come to my backyard, which is a huge backyard, only 8 of us, all wearing masks, my son in a respirator, because he's pretty paranoid about it all. And I didn't want him to say that I wasn't going to be able to hug my grandson. So I opened the package right in front of him and I put the suit on so he would know that I had no way to contaminate my grandson. And we held on to each other for a very long time. And I could feel, thankfully we see each other every day through FaceTime, but he would like pull his little arms out to me through the phone. And it was one of those feelings that was just indescribable. And there was no way I was going to not hug my grandson that day.
You've had so many achievements, Gloria, in your career, in your personal life as well. Can you think of one or two that you're most proud of?
Oh, that's a tough question. But the things that jump into my mind immediately, March 1st, 1991, when I stepped back on that stage, it would have been 20 days shy of a year of my accident, which was on March 20th. And on March 1st, the following year, I was back on. It was a personal triumph. It was a euphoric night. I remember Emilio running at the end of the show and picking me up and carrying me. I remember the energy in that room. I will never experience the kind of feeling that was in that room of love and support from my Miami people here, but people around the world. That is a big one. Another one is when Emilio and I received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama. It was the first time in history that a couple receives it together. And I knew my dad was watching from heaven and so happy and proud. My mother got to see it on television and was incredibly proud. And it's one of those moments because we're immigrants, and to receive the highest honor that's given to a civilian in a country, that is definitely a biggie. And then also having Rhythm Is Gonna Get You as one of only 500 songs that is being saved in some bunker, that's supposed to stand up against nuclear things, that they would consider that song savable because according to the Library of Congress, it changed the cultural fabric of this nation. Those things really are very special.
Well, Gloria, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And we can't wait to see you in person soon, we hope.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I look forward to being back there. I was in Britain so much last year, and we took a family vacation, thank the Lord, last summer. And because imagine, we wouldn't have been able to go. I took my grandson. We all went for the opening of the show, and we had a wonderful time. And it's always, the UK is very special in my heart. So I hope to be back, maybe celebrating the On Your Feet, getting back on its feet.
Absolutely, all back on our feet. And
yes,
we'll see you soon, Gloria.
Back on our feet, back together, and back out in the street celebrating all, one next to each other without fear.
Gloria, thank you so much indeed for your time, and we wish you well.
Thank you as well, and stay healthy and safe.